Robert Spencer here for Jihad Watch, a program of the David Horowitz Freedom Center and for the Center for Security Policy. The jihad against the freedom of speech is advancing rapidly, and most people don't even know it's happening. Turkey's Anadolu agency reported recently that Google's first page results for searches of terms such as jihad, shariah, and taqiyya now return mostly reputable explanations of the Islamic concepts. Taqiyya, which describes the circumstances under which a Muslim can conceal their belief in the face of persecution, is the sole term to feature a questionable website on the first page of results. Reputable according to whom? Questionable according to whom? Google is bowing to pressure from Muslims such as the Texas Imam Omar Suleiman, who led the initiative to compel Google to skew its results, without considering whether those who are demanding that the search results be manipulated in a particular direction might have an ulterior motive. Could it be that those who are pressuring Google want to conceal certain truths about Islam that they would prefer non-Muslims not to know? This is a real possibility. There's a large-scale Islamic initiative to compel the West to accept Sharia blasphemy laws under the guise of stamping out hate speech, an initiative that is now galloping forward and achieving immense success. But of course, Google executives would have to study Islam themselves in order to determine whether or not these Muslims who are pressuring them are misleading them, and that's not going to happen. Still, they could have done a bit more due diligence and made some effort to determine whether those being tarred as hate groups really deserved the label, whether the Southern Poverty Law Center was really a reliable and objective arbiter of which groups were and were not hate groups, and whether the information that Google was suppressing was really inaccurate. Instead, Google seems to have swallowed uncritically everything Omar Suleiman and the others told them. Omar Suleiman himself, however, is still not satisfied. One leading activist in favor of Google modifying its results, said the Anadolu agency, told the agency that he noticed the updated search results and thanked the company for its efforts, but said, much still needs to be done. Suleiman claimed that Google has a responsibility, he said, to combat hate-filled Islamophobia, similar to how they work to suppress extremist propaganda from groups like Daesh and Al-Qaeda. Daesh is, of course, the Islamic State. This should have made Google executives stop and think. The Islamic State and Al-Qaeda slaughter people gleefully and call openly for more mass murders. There is no firm evidence, on the other hand, that anyone has ever been killed by a so-called hate-filled Islamophobe, and the claim that Hamas-linked CARE and the Southern Poverty Law Center make in the Anadolu Agency article that this supposed Islamophobic rhetoric has led to a rise in hate crimes against Muslims is supported by not a scintilla of evidence. Omar Suleiman is equating critical words with murderous deeds, and Google should have realized at that point that he had an agenda and was not being honest. Suleiman himself, however, tried to pose as an impartial arbiter. The agency's article continues, Suleiman said Google should differentiate between criticism of Islam and hate-filled Islamophobia, emphasizing the religion should not be infringed upon. Now that's not clear. Omar Suleiman apparently is saying that there is acceptable criticism of Islam that is not hate-filled Islamophobia, but if that is so, then the religion can be infringed upon, at least by this legitimate criticism, no? Or, if the claim that Islam must not be infringed upon means that it cannot be criticized, why is that so of Islam, but not of any other religion? Suleiman says, I don't think Google has a responsibility to portray Muslims positively. I think, he said, Google has a responsibility to weed out fear-mongering and hate groups, but I don't want Google to silence critique of Islam or critique of Muslims. The problem with this is that neither Omar Suleiman, nor CARE, nor the SPLC, nor anyone else who has ever said that there was a distinction between legitimate criticism of Islam and hate-filled Islamophobia has ever identified anyone he thinks is a legitimate critic of Islam who is not Islamophobic. Over 16 books now, as well as thousands of articles and over 45,000 blog posts, I myself have attempted to present a reasonable, documented, fair, and accurate criticism of Islam and explanation of jihad doctrine. Nevertheless, I've been tarred as a purveyor of hate-filled Islamophobia by groups and individuals that have never given my work a fair hearing, but have read it only in search of gotcha quotes that they could wrench out of their obvious benign meaning in order to claim that I was saying something hateful. And this, of course, doesn't happen only to me. It happens to anyone and everyone who dares to utter a critical word about Islam or jihad, wherever they are on the political spectrum. This experience, reinforced countless times over a decade and a half, makes me extremely skeptical when Omar Suleiman says that he doesn't want Google to silence criticism of Islam. If he could produce some critique of Islam that he actually approved of, my skepticism might lessen. But he won't, and he can't. It seems much more likely that he pressured Google to skew its results so as to deep-six criticism of Islam, but knowing that he couldn't tell them that he was trying to bring Google into line with Sharia blasphemy laws, forbidding criticism of Islam, he told them instead that he wasn't against criticism of Islam as such, but only against hate-filled Islamophobia. Mr. Suleiman, if you and your colleagues hadn't spent years tarring all rational criticism of Islam that was accurate and presented in good faith as hate-filled Islamophobia, I might have believed you. But as one of your primary victims, I do not. I'm Robert Spencer.